Digital body language is the most forgotten about piece to the community building puzzle. And why is it so important? Let's dive in and find out.
Hello, friends. Welcome to the Community Lab, where passion intertwines with purpose and profit. We're not merely weaving tales of hobbies becoming side gigs here. We're about crafting endeavors that deeply resonate and reward. Whether you're creating courses, guiding lives, or kickstarting a podcast journey, let's elevate together from being zealous dreamers to standout community leaders. Explore the balance between passion and profitability as we unwrap the tools and tactics we use to create, maintain, and grow our own profitable community. So, what's our pledge to you? To guide you from mere daydreaming to creating a vision that's both successful and meaningful, fostering authentic ties and a close-knit community. If you're fueled by passion, eyeing a new prosperous path, and curious about making community a pillar of your success, the Community Lab awaits. Join us and let's turn those visions into profitable ventures.
Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Community Lab podcast. I'm your host, Rachel. Well, friends, the last 2 weeks, we have been talking about building your community and those beginning steps you really have to take and start considering when you add community building as a pillar to your business model. In week 1, we chatted all about mastering engagement strategies. So those key elements that you're going to use week to week to keep your community engaged and coming back for more. In week 2, we talked about crafting engaging content, and that really boils down to putting together a true plan of content that's going to make your community sing. And this week, we are going to nerd out to digital body language, or like I like to call it, cyber cues. So as we navigated these last couple of weeks, I really hope that you're starting to see a roadmap to building community in your business. And today, as we begin this third and final week, I really hope that you can see how digital body language is probably the most important component to your community. I know that sounds crazy, and you're probably thinking, well, I've got to create my brand and I've got to create my content and I have to come up with strategies. But at the end of the day, these cyber cues that your community is giving you really are the answers to what's working, what they want, and what builds a community that keeps them coming back for more. Let's begin by just defining digital body language. Digital body language refers to the set of nonverbal cues and signals that individuals emit through their digital interactions, mirroring the traditional body language seen in face-to-face communications. It encompasses everything from the timing and length of replies, choice of words, use of emojis and punctuation, to the style of the digital interactions we engage in. The importance of digital body language is really the backbone of understanding and navigating the emotional and psychological landscape of online communities and interactions. So these cyber cues really tell you how healthy your community is. Determining the health of your community really allows you to make proper business decisions and allows you to grow. It offers valuable insights into the attitudes, feelings, and responses of individuals. It serves as a crucial tool for interpreting messages beyond their contextual content. Digital body language is the backbone of understanding and navigating the emotional and psychological landscape of your online community and its interactions. It offers valuable insights into the attitudes, feelings, and responsiveness of individuals, serving as the crucial tool for interpreting messages beyond their contextual content. So imagine taking a beat and looking at the health of your community. So, how vibrant is it? How strong is it? We have to sometimes put away the numbers. I mean, I'm a numbers person. I nerd out to numbers. I've got plenty of spreadsheets. I love data, but data isn't always numbers. Sometimes it's a feeling and it's a response or lack of response. When you look at the health of your community, is your community just a really large number? Do you have 1,000 community members and you pat yourself on the back and you're happy with that? You've got 1,000 community members, you're growing all the time, and you love seeing that number grow. Now, take a beat. Is that number a vanity number? Do you have 1,000 community members or do you have 1,000 active community members? And again, what's important to your business? It depends on your business model. Now, for myself, I like an authentic community with authentic growth. I want my community members to be there. I want them to be seen. I want them to grow. I want them to consume my content. I want them to value my community. I spend endless hours working on strategy and content planning, and I revamp it constantly with the thought, will this work? Will they like this? Will this be beneficial to them? Will this help them grow? Now, every community is different, and the health of your community varies. It can also vary dependent on what kind of engagement strategy you're utilizing at that time. If I'm getting ready to host a really large online workshop in my community, then of course I'm going to see a flutter of activity. I'm going to see a lot more engagement. I'm going to see a lot more notifications, and those data points are going to grow. But let's jump forward to the day of the event. And so I've had 500 people sign up for my new free workshop, and I am so incredibly excited to have them come. But on the day of the event, I only have, let's say, 30 people show up live for the workshop. Now I'm thinking, how come no one's come? Why has no one shown up? Everyone's so excited. Well, that's your first bit of digital body language. So, just because someone's so excited for the topic or they show up in that manner and they're giving you all the ideas and all the cues that, yes, this workshop is going to be great, it's going to be productive, you're going to have a great session. When no one comes, it really changes the dynamic of how you present it. It really changes the dynamic of the audience when it's really tiny and you don't see that big engagement that you're hoping for. Now, let's remember too, there's always the replay, there's time zone issues, you name it. I've said over and over again, you can't just look at data in a one moment in time sort of, piece. You have to look at the data over time. So let's go back. Workshop. You've had 500 people, that they've RSVP. They're going to come and day of only 30 attended live. Well, that could feel like a giant failure, right? That could feel like, oh, wow, maybe I read the room wrong, right? But let's say that over the next 48 hours, you start to see massive engagement on that replay. You start seeing a whole lot of watching. You start seeing a whole lot of comments and engaging questions being asked. Well, turns out that maybe just the time of day didn't work. This is why it's so important to look at digital body language. If you just ignore the digital cues, you might look at this and say, that was a total flop. And I'm never going to put on that workshop on Branding 101 ever again. But if you took a beat and you look at 48 hours, 1 week, 1 month post event, and you're still seeing engagement on that workshop video, that replay video. Well, there's your cues. There's the information to tell you that, yes, this was an excellent offering. People are growing from it. People are authentically engaging with it. It could just be a timing issue. And so as you move forward and you start planning for that next quarter or the next, whatever month, whatever it may be, however that may look for you, you can start to see that maybe you have to evaluate time of day. Maybe you have to evaluate day of week, whatever it could be. It's really important to look at your community as a whole and not just a moment in time. As we began building the community lab, we knew that right out of the bat, even as this podcast is being recorded, that the community itself was going to be really, really small. It was going to be teeny tiny because we are starting afresh. We are starting a new program. We are working on getting a really large mailing list to adopt to an online community. Now, there's 1,000 things we can talk about when it comes to converting a newsletter list, a mailing list into actual members in your circle community. And we're going to talk all about that later. We're going to start talking about email marketing, I think, next episode, if I remember correctly. But at the end of the day, we knew it was a hurdle, and we know that there are important ways to get there. But one of the really small things that we've done out of the bat is just flow, roll, announce it. We've just been telling our audience in our weekly newsletter list, hey, the community lab's open. You can come in, you can play around, you can play around in the free community. And I've been actively watching what happens. I've been actively looking and seeing who's converted without a real big nudge. Now, we're getting ready to host our first workshop. And I know that once we host that first workshop, that newsletter list is going to say, oh, she's not doing her free workshops on Zoom. She's doing them in here. Okay. Well, I guess I'll go there to watch the workshop. And I know that'll be an easy segue and it's a really easy way for us to work on, converting our free community from a newsletter list and some social media to inside our circle community. I also know that I'll be able to promote that workshop and it will help me grow my larger community. It will help me expand that newsletter list. It'll help me expand within my circle community. But what will be really key to watch over the next couple of weeks is that as we announce that workshop, we're going to be given all kinds of digital body language that we'll have to decipher. Some of that is going to be whether or not we really are able to help that transfer. We're able to train our audience to now consume our free workshops on a different platform. So previously, we offer free workshops throughout the year and we host them on Zoom. Simple, industry standard. Here's a link. Come hang out. We're going to teach about this week. We use those free workshops to help grow our mailing list to, as a lead magnet of sorts, but also to really just do that, help people grow their business. I love watching people like rock star out. And it's so cool to say, oh my gosh, I can't believe Amanda took a free workshop a year ago and now she's just kicking butt over there. I love that. I love that feeling. But as we start this conversion, we know we're going to get some feedback. And that's important. Feedback is important. It's one of the crucial pieces to building a business. It's what you do with that feedback. Now, number one, feedback can be hard. I should probably do an entire episode on feedback, note to self. But at the end of the day, the feedback is there to help you do better or to do more of what you're already doing that they love. So, as we begin that conversion, we know we're going to have hiccups along the way. People are going to be confused why they have to now create an account on this circle thing. And, oh, there's an app I can download. And it's all about the onboarding process. It's about nurturing your members. And so as we move forward, we're going to get a whole lot of digital cues and feedback as to whether or not Circle platform is going to work for our audience. I'm hopeful that it will. I can't imagine it won't. I've successfully converted multiple audiences to the Circle platform for clients. I think I got this one covered. But it's monitoring those cues and really seeing what you can do better. Now, I have a really great layout for my onboarding process. I've got post notes all up on the wall. It says when Beth joins and she does this, she's going to land here and then she'll get this and then she'll get this. And my onboarding process is rock star. I've got it. I've got it down. I've got the drip content. I've got it all. But I have to watch those digital cues. I have to see what kind of reactions I'm getting within the community. And those can be as simple as thumbs up, happies, likes, hearts, emojis. It could also be crickets because non communication is also a digital cue. Digital body language goes beyond just the simple do they love it? Do they hate it? Some of it really boils down to the tone. So the tone in their digital communications can really convey what they're thinking, what they're feeling, their choice of word, their punctuation, even the use of like all capital letters. It plays a significant role in how messages are perceived. Now, the timing is also an item to keep in mind when you start looking at those cues and evaluating your community's health. A quick reply might indicate eagerness or urgency, while a delayed response could be interpreted of like a lack of interest or maybe busyness. It's in the context of ongoing conversations that the rhythm of exchange really can signify the impact and flow of the engagement level. So sometimes people are just in general slow responders, and sometimes people are just curt. I know plenty of people that in my professional career that I have thought, oh, wow, what did I do to upset so and so? Man. And then as you get to know them, you realize that every one of their email communication is curt and to the point. And that is how they flow. So I'm not saying you have to learn the personality of every one of your community members, but what I am saying is to remember that there's lots of different personalities. Now, another idea to keep in mind is the language choice. So the words that are chosen and the way that they are structured in a sentence can really reveal a lot about our attitude, our level of formality, and even the relationship with the recipient. Language choice can signal respect, familiarity, and distance. And then the use of professional jargon or slang or casual language can set the tone of the interaction. I always go back to I really love to pull in some fun references to Parks and Rec and even The Office within the community lab. It was one of my big go-tos when I was envisioning it, is that I wanted to pull more of Rachel's personality into this venture, and I kind of wanted to take that business hat and put it to the side a little bit. I've been very oriented in remaining very professional all of the time and kind of not allowing my personality to shine through as much as I wanted with this endeavor. And so that was a really big component to building the community lab. I wanted it to be light. I wanted it to be hopeful. These are things that are my personality. This is what I bring to the table in business meetings is I'm very optimistic. I'm very glass half full, and I wanted to take that component into the community lab, but I also wanted to bring in some of the nerdy parts that make Rachel Rachel. I am very type A. I am very organized and maybe to a fault at times, but I also love to laugh. I love watching The Office, and I'm currently my significant other and we are on an office marathon. I mean, this is honestly probably the 12th time I've watched the show. And I love it and I laugh and it brings me joy. And I wanted to bring some of that part of my personality into the community lab. Now, I think we all know I'm a nerd and we know that I will stay up late and I will read boring articles for most on the latest in newsletter marketing. I will stay up late and I will learn a new technique in Canva so I can teach it to others. But I also like to laugh. I like to crack jokes, and those items can live in the same body. And I wanted to bring that forward into the community lab. So the way I communicate is by references to these items. And they might go over some people's heads and they may not. But at the end of the day, I communicate in a lighter, more easygoing, genuine way with my communications with the community lab. And that is an important component to building this community for me. So my language choice has been integral and well thought out with all communications within the community lab. One other thing to keep in mind is the responsiveness. I think I brought this up earlier too. So it's not just about the speed of a reply. So I think because I have an anxious brain, the minute I see an email, I almost have to tell myself, I don't say almost, I have to tell myself it's okay to not respond in the next 30 seconds. It's okay for an email to sit, to marinate, to be responded to tomorrow, even. I know it's crazy. We all think we have to communicate immediately, and that's how we show that we're showing up. But it's not always the response time that's important. A lot of times, it's the actual thoughtfulness of the response. So acknowledging the sender's message, addressing their, concerns and comments specifically, and then contributing meaningfully to the conversation all demonstrate a high level engagement and respect for the interaction. So think about that. So if I'm just writing back, thanks so much, instead of that was a brilliant idea, Ashley. I think we should incorporate that in Q3. I love that idea. I cannot wait to explore it more. What about we do this as well? Now, I might not have answered that in 3.2 seconds on a post in my community, but I've answered it in a very responsive and respectful way that I've taken time to actually consume the comment in my head. I've marinated on it. I've gotten excited about it and I've given a true response opposed to the thanks. So it's not just the time, the actual seconds or minutes that it takes for the response. It's also the depth of the response. Digital body language contributes significantly to the atmosphere of online communities. Positive cues such as timely and thoughtful responses, use of inclusive language, and active listening skills like acknowledging posts and providing constructive feedback help in creating an environment where members feel valued, heard, and respected. So important. So important. This environment, in turn, lays the foundation for trust and rapport, encouraging more open and meaningful exchanges among community members. I want to give you a few examples of positive digital body language. Number one, regularly liking, commenting on, or sharing members' posts signals that their contributions are valued. Offering words of encouragement, support, or congratulations fosters a positive and nurturing community environment. And prompt replies, asking follow up questions, and initiating discussions demonstrating high level of interest and engagement. So let's talk about some negative digital body language. And it's so funny. I think about I've seen these videos on Instagram recently where people have said talking to your teenage son is like talking to the guy who is not interested in you. And it really couldn't be more true. Um so I have a teenage son. He's 15. He's a freshman in high school. And he's awesome. He's an awesome guy and he's got it all together and he's a great student and he's a sweet young man. But talking to him via text message and sometimes even in person is like truly I takes me back to college and you're like talking to some guy who's like obviously not interested in you and you're like, "Huh, you write 2 paragraphs about how fantastic the movie was last night and dinner," and he writes back, "Yeah." And I kinda look at that is something I look at that as a really great example of negative digital body language. So, lack of engagement is also a sign of body language, just not great body language, right? And as a community host, you want to be really cautious that you aren't putting out negative body language. So your lack of engagement is perceived as negative body language. So if you're ignoring members' posts or questions, it will signal to them that you have disinterest. Or maybe you're trying to be, you know, not inclusive with them and you're making those members feel undervalued. And you want to make sure you're not using dismissive language or failing to address the concerns raised by a member. It can make members feel frustrated and alienated if you do so. And this one is really important. It goes back my kids are always asking me, "Well, which one of us is your favorite?" And they know I'm never going to answer. And honestly, it ebbs and flows. On some weeks, Bella's the favorite, and some weeks Colton's the favorite. And some weeks it's Maisie and Harper are pets, right? Okay, let's be honest. It's probably always Maisie and Harper. But being highly responsive to certain members while neglecting others can also lead to a perception of favoritism or bias. So it's a really fine balance. You don't want to show up to every interaction like the annoying, stereotypical cheerleader in one of those movies that they made in the early 2000s of like, hey, 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 like a brand new dog, right? Hey, hey, hey. You don't wanna show up like that. But you also don't wanna, like, play it cool and be, like, the super cool guy or the teenage high schooler who is like, "Yeah, yeah, just my presence is enough." It's really finding a really great balance between the 2 and remembering that you are the moderator of all digital body language. So you can't just moderate those in your community, you have to moderate your own. You have to make sure that your digital body language aligns with your community's values, its beliefs, and with the rest of the audience. Now, let's talk just briefly. I think you kind of probably got this part already figured out, but let's talk a little bit about interpreting the digital cues. So, you're going to notice patterns. I've given you the example of a workshop how people show up, how they come, how they interact after. It's once again, it's just not a moment in time. You want to look at a broader scope of the engagement to get a true beat on the health of your community. You know, track engagement over time, utilize those community metrics. So, Circle itself has some really great metrics in there, but I'm going to give you a pro tip. I've also embedded Google Analytics into my Circle community, which gives me an even better overview of my community. So, while Circle has some really good analytics as far as engagement and active users and inactive users and so on and so forth, Google Analytics really tells me what content they're engaging with as far as viewing. So just because someone hasn't come in and written a comment, liked a post, whatever it may be, it doesn't mean that they aren't actually engaging with that content. For instance, I just dropped a tutorial video on a workaround to create completion certificates for Circle. At this time, when you do a course, they don't have that elusive certificate at the end. And I created a workaround for a client and I shared my workaround with a little template and a little video the other day. And on the views on the video, we're like at 132 or something as of recording this. And I think maybe 4 people have liked the post. and a couple of interactions of like, thanks for the template, yada, yada. And then when I even further go in and dig a little deeper and I go into the actual Canva template itself, I can see that over 100 people have viewed that template. So data's all around. It's all about gathering it. And then it's about interpreting it. Just because someone's not giving you the standing ovation, hands clap up in the air that this is the best thing they've ever seen, doesn't mean that they aren't using it. And it doesn't mean that they don't love it. It can mean a lot of different things, but to me, they're watching the video, they're using the template, then it's working. And I'm going to do more of that, right? So that tells me that's how I'm interpreting this really goes back to looking at active engagement versus passive engagement. So make sure you're looking at both. Make sure you're not just stuck in those numbers, but make sure you're really looking at the cues that those folks are giving you. And last but not least, polls and surveys for direct feedback. Incorporate regular polls and surveys, and they provide such great insight to how your members are feeling about the community. And they'll give you direct feedback. They'll tell you what you're doing great. They'll tell you what they want to see more of. And I think that this is really an important key. And I hope this doesn't rub anyone too wrong. But when you send out a feedback form, and you get constructive feedback, right? Feedback that says, I really love the podcast episode on engagement strategies. Rachel, that was fantastic. It really opened my mind. I just wish you would have covered one more topic. That's really great feedback, right? So they're letting you know that you really did great overall, but there was just was one more thing I really wish you would have touched on, or basically I had a question on. So that's fantastic. Was there some negative feedback in there? Absolutely. There was a little piece that they felt you missed. There was a gap that they registered. You can close that gap, you can answer them directly. There's a whole lot of ways to handle that. Now, let's say you send out the same survey and you get back a whole lot of feedback of, you don't know what you're talking about. I hated this. I don't like this. I wish it did this. And the majority of your feedback is negative. It's really time to take a beat and say, whoa, the health of my community is not great. Because if everyone isn't able to find some value in what I'm producing, then there's an overall issue. Mastering these strategies for reading and interpreting digital body language really allows community leaders to be more responsive to the online environment. And understanding the nonverbal cues of your community allows for a deeper insight into the health of your community. It enables you to tailor your approach, content, and interactions to foster a more engaging and supportive space. All right, guys, let's take a brief break and hear all about my favorite community building tool, Circle.
I'm sure you've already heard me mention a time or two how much I love Circle for building my online community. If you're a fellow podcast host or digital creator looking to elevate your online community, look no further because Circle is endgame. It revolutionizes the way you connect and engage with your audience. Circle offers an intuitive platform that brings together your content, conversations, and community all in one place. It's your one-stop shop for building a vibrant, interactive community that's uniquely yours. Whether you're a podcast host, course creator, or coach, Circle empowers you to create a space that's as dynamic and engaging as your content. Customized to your heart's content, from private spaces to integrative live streams, making your community both exclusive and inclusive. Transform your audience into a thriving community with Circle. Watch your engagement soar, your relationships deepen, and your brand grow. It's more than a platform. It's a community builder's dream. So, are you ready to bring your community together? Visit circle.so or the link in the show notes and start your free trial today.
Welcome back, friends. Last but not least, I just want to talk a little bit about how you can cultivate a positive digital interaction. So, we really are the camp leader here. We have to take our group and we have to show them the way. And by being positive and exuding what you want to get back, the mirror. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of this. You mirror the behavior that you see. It's documented, it's been researched mainly in children and their upbringings, and they mirror what they see around them. And so you want to mirror the community you want. And like I mentioned before, I really wanted to pull more personality into my community in my business, in my day to day working with clients. I work with a lot of corporate clientele, and that is a different type of showing up. It's not a different Rachel. It's just I have to show up and I really have to check the personality and the ego at the door. And when it comes time to building my own community, I really wanted to pull my personality in. I wanted it to be more fun and light. And because my community is a passion project and not something that I have to make this community work or I can't pay rent next month, I'm able to really nurture and spend the time that I want to on it. And I think that is really important in business itself. And I say that from a point of gratitude that I am there in my career. I have not always been there. Definitely not always been there. And so to be at a point in my career where I can say, I really have this passion for helping other people add community building as a pillar to their business model, I get the luxury of saying, I can put together all this really great content. And if it all flops and this doesn't work, it's not the end of the world. It allows me to have a different lens as I'm building content. And it allows my members to have a different lens as they consume it. It just comes from a different place. And it really allows a contextual handshake, right? It allows me to say, this is my best work. And I really hope you love it and I'm putting it out there like, on my sleeve sort of mentality. Now, how do you cultivate those positive interactions? Well, there's a lot of ways. Like I just said, lead by example, mirror the behavior you want from your community members. Number two, establish clear guidelines and not only establish them, but put a plan in place to adhere to them. So for me, we have a really great swipe file if you're struggling with guidelines. It's a freebie. I think it's like on the website and it's in the community lab in the freebie area. Uh, you want to create and communicate clear guidelines and outline expected digital behavior within your community. So you want to be really clear. These are the rules. If you want to hang out in my living room with me, this is how you have to. And if you can't handle the rules, that's okay. You don't have to stay. No one's making you, right? This isn't high school and you're not forced to conform here. This is you can choose to be here or you can choose not to be. And I really hope you'll stay. And I really hope that you can adhere to these very simple, normal rules. But if you can't, that's okay too. So establish clear guideline and then put a plan into place to make sure that they happen. And what I mean by that is that put a process in place. We have a process in the community lab. There's a form you can fill out that you can report someone if there's an issue. There is a three strikes you're out rule. We have everything in place to handle that part of the business. And it's very important to have those components in place because you are telling your community, I care and I got your back. I'm going to make sure that you're safe within my community. It's really key. So, not just establishing the rules, but having a plan in place to make sure people adhere to the rules. A few other ways that you can really hone in and push positive digital body language is implement programs that recognize members, reward them with positive member of the month or badges. There's so many opportunities for those within the circle community or whatever platform you might be utilizing. Active listening encourages a more thoughtful and respectful dialogue. And then facilitate meaningful interactions. Make sure that you're there to help introduce people to one another. That's one of my favorite things to do. When I meet someone new and I really think, oh my gosh, you know who they would hit it off with? I want to introduce them immediately and monitor and mediate. Like I've said, making sure that those members feel that they are heard and safe in your community is so important. It is your way of saying, this is how I expect things to be. And this is my digital cue to you is I got your back. Through mindful digital body language, clear guidelines, and strategic encouragement of positive interactions, you can foster a community that embodies respect, support, and genuine connection. Okay, friends, I know that it has been a fantastic journey the last 3 weeks. I can't wait to do more of these like couple of week series. I want to hear what you think. Do you like having sort of a couple of weeks in a row where you know what's coming your way? Or do you just want things from all over the place? I hope you'll let us know and give us some feedback. If you're not already a member of the Community Lab, please join. It's a free community, there's no strings attached. We've got all kinds of great free resources in there. We're dropping new things all the time. And if you're looking for a more elevated approach, we have our inner circle where we have our entire template library is there. So all of our courses, all of our worksheets, all of our Canva templates, they're already in there. And you can grab them for a monthly fee, and we're dropping new content every week. So every week we drop new templates of some sort. So either Canva templates or business templates, you name it, we're dropping it in there weekly. Head over. Community Lab, free, inner circle, upcharge. I think that's all. Next week, we're going to be talking all about email marketing. We're going to talk about why your newsletter list is so important, why growing one and cultivating one and nurturing one is really the must have when it comes to community building. I hope you all have a great week, friends, and we'll see you here same time, same place.